So your lawnmower will fire up and run just fine. If you squirt a little brake cleaner, carb spray, squirt a little gas into the carburetor, it'll crank up and run just fine. But it will not start if you're pressing the primer ball and try to start it without doing that. Y'all stick around. I'm going to show you what to look for and how to fix it, and it won't take long. Welcome back to Rayleigh's Small Engines, folks. I'm T-Bone. Appreciate you tuning back in. If you didn't see our last video, we did one on a 2-strokes on how to put your purge ball in correctly and how your fuel lines are routed up. I'll put a link to that right up in here somewhere, and I'll also put a link down in the description. Y'all go check that video out. We appreciate you tuning in, and we're going to talk about a push mower today, why your primer doesn't work and how to fix it. So the first thing we're going to look at, obviously we're going to look at the condition of your primer ball, but I want you to go ahead and find you a you can use some brake cleaner, carburetor cleaner. I got an old Coke bottle, whatever kind of bottle, a little bit of Dawn and dishwashing liquid. And we're gonna, if you look right in here, there is a groove right down here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna squirt some soapy water, brake cleaner, carb cleaner, gasoline, I don't care, right down in this little groove. So y'all come on in a little closer. Right here is what we're going to do. We're going to squirt a little water in that groove right there. Now let's watch for additional bubbles. Now we know our primer works, right? See those bubbles? Get a little more soapy water in there. You can do it plain water. I don't care. Put something in there, folks. Look right here. That primer is working correctly. Now, if you didn't see those bubbles, what you're going to want to do is pop this primer out. Now, yes, Briggs does make a tool for this. It's a clampy thing. Or you can take a screwdriver and just pop in the sides and pull that thing out. Try not to damage this plastic piece, okay? And when you order your new primer, you're going to have 2 pieces like this. This slides over, and then you're going to be, well, T-Bone, I don't have the $35 tool to put the thing in without messing it up. Somebody's going to say in the comment, well, just take a screwdriver. Well, let me tell you what happens if you take a screwdriver. You may get lucky and get it in there. Me, I poke a hole into 3 of these things before I ever get it in there. So what did I do? I'm cheap. I didn't go buy the fancy tool. I took me an old socket and ground it off, and I made it fit the doggone thing. So all I got to do is I'll put it together, slip it on my little tool, and then slide it down in there, and I always put a little Vaseline, a little grease or something all around all the pieces there. Slide it down in there, and then I'll get me a little hammer, and I go smack. Done. Too easy. And it didn't cost you $35. Well, I don't know how much it costs. I'm too cheap to buy one anyway. So what this thing does, this needs to seal against the face of this carburetor. There's the gasket. Now what'll happen, all this thing is doing, when you have this mounted up, all this thing is doing is pushing air in through a little hole into the bowl of the carburetor. And when it puts that air pressure in that bowl, it's going to push the fuel up. There is an emulsion tube, a little brass tube right down in the center there. Y'all come on a little closer and I'll show you. It's right down in the center there. And when you pump that primer, this little hole right here is what you're pushing air into in order to put pressure in that carburetor. Now you don't even have to take the carburetor off of the machine. All you want to do is some brake cleaner, carb cleaner, and this little tiny hole right here. squirt a little bit right in that hole, just like this. And you should see the fuel come up through that tube. Simple as that. They are seldom clogged, but sometimes they do because they can get dirty in them. That's going to be working 9 times out of 10. Now, here's what's causing the problem. This cover. These things have 2 screws on here, and they have a tendency to warp. Therefore, it does not seal good to the carburetor. Even if your gasket, you replaced your gasket, you cleaned all this up, this thing is going to warp. Now, there's a couple ways. Some people say you can put 2 gaskets on here and double those up. It almost never works, at least not for me. Maybe it will for you. I've seen people take a toothpick and some RTV and seal up around this little groove right here, and then loosely mount it back to the carburetor, let it sit, and then screw it on down. That does work sometimes. Or, get my squirt bottle out of the way. What you can do is get old Mr. Heat Gun out. Now, if you don't have a heat gun, when your wife's not looking, go steal her hair dryer and get that thing right up on there with a hair dryer. Heat gun, you better be careful. But either way, heat this plastic up. And like I say, with your primer sitting vertical like this, it's going to warp this way. And what you're wanting to do is got a concave, I guess you would say, in this plastic, and it's not sealing against the carburetor. Once you heat this thing up, get you some gloves on, and then bend this thing back and just hold it there till it cools off. Get you some gloves on because you're going to want this thing hot. Sometimes you can straighten this back out, but what's happening is leaking air right there. Worst case, go on to the China Zone or wherever you want to go, or Fleabay, and get you a new cover. Replace the cover and your problem's going to be solved. I know y'all saw this sitting over here. The plastic carburetor works the exact same way. All you're doing is pushing air in through there, and it's coming out the tube in the center. These typically you don't have a problem with warping. It's a little heavier plastic and they just seem to work better. But if you do, the same thing will apply here. So we appreciate you watching. Y'all click that subscribe button. It is free to subscribe. Leave us one of those thumbs up and share our videos with your friends. We'll see you next time, folks. Thanks for watching.